Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your hosts Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Well, we got me off guard. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our program today. It's been, I'm going to say hectic, but it's hard to go. Anyway, good evening to you, April. How are you doing?
I'm great, Brother Edward. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm kind of chilling right now, but it's going to get better. A whole lot better. It's voting time. It's election today. Did you know that?
Special election today. Yeah, it just ended, as a matter of fact, 7 o'clock.
Oops. Do you think we'll be getting any results?
I don't know. I'll do some research while we're on the air to see if there's any results reported. But yeah, voting just ended at 7.
Just ended at 7.
It's special election for Conway City Council seat. Yeah, and I think we had one of the contestants or candidates on with us last week. We did, Kendall Brown. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And got a good. He kind of propagated his platform very well. In running for today's city council seat. So we wish him well, and hopefully we can get some results by the time before we finish it today. But anyway, we got to tackle this issue on housing. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's always an issue, and we need some solutions. Some assistance and some help for people who are having problems with housing and rental. So,
and we'll do what we can, okay, from our perspective and for the audience to make sure that things that are available, resources or whatever, our guests should kind of give us a good in-depth analysis on those things. Because they just came back from a very important conference that entailed most of that stuff about grant writing, resources, and what's available that the average person just doesn't get a chance to go to. Okay, so having said that, I want to say let's just go ahead with our guests and see what they have to say, especially Mr. Tim McCray and Mr. Joey Smoak. Mr. Tim McCray, as you all know, is one of our leading community activists that's in Horry County. He's stationed in Myrtle Beach, but in Horry County. And Mr. Joey Smoak, he's the CEO of what's called ECHO, ECHO, and that stands for Eastern Carolina Housing Organization. So, without further ado, let's see if we can start this thing rolling and make our audience benefit very greatly from what you guys have to share with us about. Okay, so Mr. Tim, Mr. McCray.
Tim's having a little audio problem right now, so why don't we just start with Joey Smoak, just kind of introducing himself to our audience, and then we can kick into some of the discusussion.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Tim.
Y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Mm-hmm, yeah, got you now.
Yeah.
You want Tim to go?
Yeah, because I guess we kind of like contacted him for to kind of like give us a summary on this a couple of weeks or three weeks ago, and then when he advised everybody on our communications that he was going to attend this conference in Florence on housing. So Mr. McCray, or Reverend McCray, I might add. I wouldn't leave that out, brother. I'll leave that out. So you can cut. So go ahead, kick it off, man. We're ready to receive this very important information from you.
Thank you, April and Mr. Quint.
Glad to be here tonight. Last week we put together South Carolina Minority Affairs and HUD put together this affordable houses assistance forum. We
Right.
brought different agencies around the state. We brought HUD, FHH to talk about housing. South Carolina. We brought together the Human Affairs to talk about fair housing. And for USDA, and plus we had Echo, Mr. Joey came on board, all of his expertise, and so I'm excited tonight to be a part of this and let you guys know that this initiative with housing is definitely a crisis here, and not only in Horry County but throughout South Carolina. And Mr. Joey will share with you guys about the counties that he's been covering, about 13 counties, but what he have done here in Horry County as well. So I'm excited tonight to have Mr. Joey here and plus to be on this show to talk to you guys about the next things that we'll be moving forward, bringing these type of forms here even to Horry County.
All right, you the man, Mr. Smoak.
Okay, well, my name is Joey Smoak. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of ECHO Eastern Carolina Housing Organization. As I was explaining to Mr. McQueen, our official name is the Eastern Carolina Homelessness Organization. We had to change that because of the stigma that comes along with the word homelessness and dealing with landlords and property owners and service providers. So, the forum last week was great. HUD had invited me to come speak on homelessness in general. And I heard April say that I guess we want to focus more on rental, which is more of what we deal with. A lot of the forum was on home ownership. And, we were hearing about the great first-time home buyers programs, which those are available through South Carolina Housing and Finance Authority. You can look that up. If you have someone that's in first-time home buyers, they can get up to $6,000 down payment assistance and closing costs that can be in a program where you don't have to pay it back, or you do have to pay it back. But go to South Carolina Housing and Finance Authority and click on home buyers, and then you'll see the first time home buyers program. They have all kind of other home ownership programs. The USDA also has those same type programs. HUD through FHA has those same type programs. They had one that I was unaware of that Tim and I learned about for firefighters, law enforcement, school teachers, that they are able to buy a HUD FHA foreclosed home off of the list for 50% of the price of what it's listed for. That's unheard of. And the down payment is $100.
Wow.
And I think the loan is fixed at 6%. So there's all kind of things out there in home ownership. What we deal with at ECHO, and we serve 13 counties. I can give you a list of the counties that we serve with, is Chesterfield, Clarendon, Darlington, Dillon, Florence, Georgetown, Horry, Kershaw, Lee, Marion, Marlboro, Sumter, and Williamsburg. So there's a continuum of care, and there's 4 different ones in South Carolina that are grouped in these counties. That's the particular ones that our organization serves. So I'll give you just a general overview. The rental housing market, and I heard what Mr. McQueen was saying, or Tim, the housing market and the housing crisis is not limited to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as bad as the opioid crisis that's going on nationally. And one of the things I really want to explain is a lot of, and I'm bad about saying names, so I'll try not to, a lot of governments and municipalities, things like that, do not understand the difference in affordable housing and low income housing. They are not the same thing. Affordable housing means that the person or family that's in that house has enough disposable income that not more than 30% of their disposable income is required to pay that rent. So when you deal in this state, and like this county or the counties you guys are familiar with, so you have a lot of people on fixed disability income that are not able to work. That can range from $733 to $900 a month, maybe $1,000 if they're lucky, whatever the disability is. What rental unit, especially in this county, can you find? And if it's a HUD grant, and we're a nonprofit, by the way, we're not a government agency. What is going to fit that fair market rent that's not going to take up their entire income, if there's not a subsidy involved, that they can get into or be able to sustain? It's one thing to get someone in a house, but then being able to sustain it without permanent subsidies or assistance is a real issue. So the lack of public housing, subsidized housing, is a big issue too. Whether a developer has gone and gotten a tax credit for a property and builds these houses where they have limited rents on what they can charge. So we're currently, I mean, statewide, you're looking last year, 13,339 people were provided homeless services. These are people that were literally homeless, and that definition is living on the street, in a park, an abandoned building, a car, any place that's not meant for normal human habitation. The other, just as large part of the population that is really underserved is those that are considered imminently at risk of becoming homeless. That could be me or any of us on this broadcast any given week, or some kind of loss of income or whatever. So that means that you're in jeopardy of losing your primary nighttime residence within 21 days. Then there's a grant program, which I'll get to the different programs here shortly, that can step in and avoid that eviction and pay forward. Or if you're in a situation where your income is $1,000 a month, your rent's $1,200 or $900, which is a mathematical equation that doesn't work, we could relocate you to something that does. So the availability of these units that will pass these HUD quality inspections is a real serious problem. And does it affect one part of the community more than others? I think anybody that would try to say it doesn't would not be being completely honest. It certainly does. And what do property owners or landlords, there was an instance given by Don from the State Human Affairs Commission, I've known him forever, about having a house appraised that was going to be sold that had an African-American owner, and then having someone come back and appraise it, where removing stuff out the house. And if it was a white, then the appraisal would almost go up and double. That even offended me hearing that. That was shocking to me. But I know it's real because of what we deal with, disparities in housing, equal opportunities in housing, fair housing, the American Disabilities Act, and it's just, you can't force people to do but so much. But when someone's in there, in the house, is, how do we assist and help I hate the word tenants, I hate the word clients, I hate the word program participants. These are people. And I can tell you, my story is kind of an open book. I'm a recovered drug addict. I'll be 18 years clean and sober in August. I came through one of the programs that's a part of ECHO's grant portfolio. And if it hadn't been for that, I'd either probably be dead or still in prison, because I've been there. Don't intend to go back. That's my past. So that's where a lot of the compassion comes from. Somebody did this for me.
Right.
So that's where my dedication has been, is like, how can these people get help? Who's going to help? There's a lot of people that have great missions, and the compassion is great. But when we're talking about housing costs money. So how do you get the funds to do that? Where are they available from? Which is one of my primary functions at ECHO, is the CEO, kind of the founder, so to speak, but is what government agency, federal, state, or local, has these funding streams that are available, that if we can present a grant application and we have the capacity to do it, that we could administer this and serve as many people as we can. So, and as far as ECHO goes for our 13 counties, this is the calendar year last year. And my laptop has the camera, so I'm not looking away from you guys. I just got to look at the computer screen.
It's okay.
So last year, from January to December 31st, ECHO provided the services to 8,688 people. I will tell you that 88% of that number is Horry County. Horry County, unofficially, about 1/3 to 1/2 of this entire state's homeless population.
Wow.
And no matter what any government official says, until, like, especially the greater Myrtle Beach area, until they get the power to remove the Atlantic Ocean, that's never going to change. And one of the things that we really fight is, designing programs, whether it's shelters or whatever the case may be, is a lot of folks, and so the advocacy and things like this broadcast that we're all now getting this message out to the public, is a lot of people say, that's a great idea, but you're not doing that in my backyard. Well, at some point, it's going to be in somebody's backyard. Because I can assure you that I'm going to be reading zonings, and I'm going to be finding where it can be done. Be damned, excuse my language, of what someone thinks. And they're like, well, if you put more resources here, more are going to come. And I'm like, what you don't get is they're already here. These are your people. So I'm going to try to keep a lot of my personal opinions out of that, because I can really get up on a soapbox about subpopulations or populations that are vulnerable, that are underserved, and there's disparities in the numbers and all that kind of stuff, because that's what we do here, is try to break through those barriers and lower them down. But out of that number that I told you, that was 4,295 households. There again, keep all these numbers I'm telling you are going to be 85 to 90% Horry County. 363 veterans. These are honorably discharged combat vets that are on the street. 206 survivors of domestic violence. So there's a big common thing that there is no domestic violence crisis houses or shelter in Horry County. Not true. We've been operating 2 crisis houses here for 5 years. We just added 2 more and added another one in Florence, where if whatever the gender, kids, families, individuals, they don't even have to be actively fleeing. If they have a history of it, we can put them in this transitional house. While they're in there, the case managers go work with them to get them into their own house. And through the grants that we have through HUD, we'll be able to provide the financial assistance for security deposits, utility deposits. We work with the first 3 months right up front, and then we work case by case, because you can't stereotype anybody's situation.
Correct.
Trying to help them get in there. So that's just for domestic violence, because this state's horrible, and Horry County's got like the top numbers in the state. 34 youth and young adults. And to inform everybody, HUD considers youth, an unaccompanied youth, unaccompanied by a parent, is the ages 18 to 24. So up to 24, they will qualify for these unaccompanied youth programs. This 13 county area received the Youth Homeless grant from HUD. The individual project applications are due Friday, but the 13 counties received $3.1 million for 2 years. And then it'll be, so you cut that in half a year. After the 2 years, they'll automatically renew these projects that are awarded. This is to serve 18 to 24-year-olds that are unaccompanied by a parent or family member, and their kids, if they have kids, and they can do things like pay to clear up their driver's license, cover car insurance, buy a cell phone, all kind of stuff HUD doesn't normally let you do. Also, to find a host home or a kinship care model. So one of our big issues that we have here, and I'm sure you guys are aware, are kids aging out of foster care. They turn 18, they're gone, and it's like they just flip off into the system. And so this program, this grant will allow you to pay a family up to, or find a home recruit, either $500 or $1,000 a month to continue to let the youth live there to age 24. That's never been available before. That's a brand new resource. Same thing with kids that are coming up on the spectrum of autism. And, you know, a friend of mine, Reggie Sanders, he's played in the major leagues forever, has the Reggie Sanders Foundation. He's from Florence, but he lives here at the beach. And it was like 1 in 7 male kids in Horry County that are born would possibly be fall somewhere on the spectrum. The problem is they're not diagnosed and they're not caught, and they don't fall under any category in any government agency. So when they get out of school or whatever and families don't want to deal with it, then there's a problem there too. So those are the kind of things that I look for. It's like, okay, this grant's available here. I'm going to write it just for that population. One of the new ones we were just awarded is, you know, the continuum of care has priority populations. Our continuum of care is 65 and older, domestic violence, substance use disorder, which is 85% of the reason that most people are homeless anyway, mental illness, veterans, youth, and families with children 0 to 5. And I didn't understand the 0 to 5 thing from HUD at first, but what they're saying is a 6-year-old is in school at that point, so they have some safe place to be part of the day. The 0 to 5 may not. So that's the priority populations. And so what I do is I'll look for a funding stream. I'm going to write that grant just for that priority population. So the new one is for families with children 0 to 5 and people 65 and older. Anybody can be served in the general, like rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing grant. So back to the number, I'll get off on a tangent if you don't correct me there. So 188 of these households were chronically homeless individuals or families. That means that somebody has a disability and that they've actually been on the street for 1 year at a time, or 4 times in the last 3 years that total a year. There are tons of that in all of our counties plus Horry County. And I will tell you this, if they considered, if HUD would let you consider the doubled up population as homeless, because they are. If you got 2 families living in one house, only one of those families has a lease agreement or an occupancy agreement in their name. That family is providing temporary shelter to the other one. But that other family, in my opinion, should be counted as homeless because they don't have their own home. They're living in somebody else's. The homeless numbers would go up by 10 times. And of course, that's not going to look good to, HUD and Congress is appropriating this money. We allow you to count doubled up and the homeless numbers, like we're putting all this money out there and the numbers just went way up. Well, Department of Education counts that, every other federal agency except for HUD. I mean, I get why they don't do it, but I'm sure probably everybody on this broadcast knows somebody that's in that living situation. You got a family and you got a 30-year-old child that now has had to come back and live home. Well, that 30-year-old child would be their own adult household, or two families living together is a lot of it. 206 of those households were disabled vets, much less the honorably discharged combat vets, and 672 disabled people, period. So the one thing that is a big issue in housing, you got emergency housing, which would be like an emergency shelter, which we don't have hardly any here. Lawrence has the biggest number of emergency shelter beds. And then you have transitional, which someone can be in up to 2 years. And we do a little bit of that with domestic violence and substance use. So where we're focused is on permanent housing. The age-old question is housing a basic human right, or is housing a basic civil right? I would beg to argue that it's both. So when you get in here and you're looking at that, we have a lack of shelter beds. And right now on the COC's priority list, which would be the people that are needing housing, is 1,832 people today on that list. Whether it is individual, and that's in the 13 counties, there again, 85 to 90% of that's in Horry County. It's humanly impossible and financially impossible to house that many people at one time, as you can see. So we do as much as we can do. We've grown double in size every year, especially since the pandemic, which is really ironic, and the government, and I'm not bad enough. I mean, they were printing money basically like it was on notebook paper. Well, all that CARES Act funding, when the public health emergency ended, when President Biden ended it May 12th or 16th, all that money has now got a time frame to be spent, and they're pulling it all back. So we're going back to normal funding streams now. But during that time, and what we still have to do because of the shelter, that somebody's in that crisis situation, we've had to put them in hotels. So use a hotel as an emergency shelter, plus provide the food for them while they're there. So last year, ECHO provided 37,731 bed nights in hotels in our crisis houses. And it was over 75,000 over the last 2 years. That was at a cost of over $700,000 between the hotel bills and the food that it takes to get there, while we're trying to find them their own housing.
Joey, if I may call you Joey, it sounds like, of course, there's an incredible amount of funding that's needed for you all to do what you do and to cover, that many nights, for example, for someone who's in need of shelter. It's almost unfathomable, especially if you're doing it on a consistent basis.
Right.
And I know that, we have a foster care system that we typically utilize when we place children.
Right.
Has there been has the concept been on the table to find like foster families who can take in families, or who can take in at least, for example, if there's a single parent who has children and they have room, are those types of programs in existence, or has that concept ever been utilized?
The one I was talking about earlier, the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, and HUD's big on acronyms, is YHDP. That's the $3 million award the 13 county area got. They call it Northeast and South Carolina. So, and then all the nonprofits can submit project types, and that it's called the Host Home Kinship Care Model.
Okay.
Which is set up just like foster care. We're going to put an application in for that, where if we request a waiver from HUD, the standard fee is we could pay the homeowner, the host home, $500 a month to continue if they're coming out of foster care or they've never been in it. Or if we request an exemption, we can pay up to $1,000 a month. I don't know if many will bite at $500. At $1,000, maybe so. The grant, one of the grants that I'm writing at ECHO, is going to create transitional crisis houses for these youth and their kids, if they have kids, 18 to 24 and whatever age the kids are. We'll have a house at Sumter, we'll have a house in Florence, and we'll have 2 here in Horry County. So there'll be 4 crisis houses, and our goal is not for them not to be there more than 90 days. before a housing case manager, they'll start working with them from day one. And we find a landlord that's willing to sign a lease with them, which is a difficult thing when you're dealing with prior, especially with youth. They may not have a rental history. They may have felonies and all that. That was my experience coming into it, because all of that on my record. So, and finding a landlord that's willing to sign that. So HUD is allowing us and the VA to incentivize landlords. And here's what that looks like. We can pay a double security deposit. So the regular security deposit would go, and it does not come back to ECHO if they were to move out. It goes back to the tenant. The second security deposit, they call it a double security deposit. It's a commission. There's no other way to word it. It's an incentive. So say the deposit was $1,000. So we can pay $2,000 in a security deposit. First month's rent, they would get a check for $3,000 right up front. That second $1,000, they don't have to return. So without giving us funding to be able to incentivize landlords, because I can tell you, because of the eviction moratorium that lasted almost 2 years, property owners and landlords are not happy about taking the government's money. And the one thing I'll say about that, not a penny of it is the government's money. It's all of our money. It comes out of our paycheck.
Taxpayers, yeah, taxpayers'
and they're
money.
stewards of it, and they transfer that stewardship down to nonprofits like us. And we got to make sure that we're making sure that that money is going where it needs to be, and that's to the public and the citizens of our 13 county area. I know we're kind of focused on Horry County, which has a tremendous, and not just the homeless population, but it's like, people talk about unemployment. Well, let's talk about underemployment. The living wage for Horry County, through all of our studies, is kind of documented that it's required for someone to make an hour to support the rents in Horry County is $18.75 an hour. Now, tell me how many head of households are working and making $18.75 an hour. That's the minimum.
Yeah,
it's not there.
Right.
You have all kind of programs. So the HUD COC grants have all these rapid rehousing, these joint programs that, like you're asking about the youth, because that is a serious issue. We applied. We were one of 7 communities in the whole country that got that award, but our 13 counties did receive it, and it'll be an ongoing thing. So I'd love to talk with you if you got some ideas about that. We have a youth advisory board and then a core group that works on these things, designing this, because it's all new to us too. We just realized there is a gigantic gap when kids are coming out of foster care and they turn 18, and basically everybody's back's turned on them, and they're scared. And what a lot of folks don't realize is, well, there's these resources out there. Well, like Mr. McCray was saying, do they even know about them? And then even if they know about them, they may have had a negative experience with an agency before, whether it's state, federal, local, or nonprofit, or just private, that keeps them from walking in the door. And you're dealing with someone in the population we deal with may have warrants. The last person at the place that they want to go is somewhere they think is going to share their information and put it out there. And that may be somebody that's already in housing that's in jeopardy of being evicted. That is a humongous population. Before the broadcast started, we were talking about the emergency rental assistance program that the U.S. Treasury put out. And just in Horry County, the first allotment that the county was given was $8.4 million. And I'm like, they procured it and put it out for agencies that could actually run and administer it. And of course, we work a lot of other programs with them too. And I'm like, there's no way there's that kind of back rent. It allowed you to pay up to 15 months back rent plus 3 months forward. And I'm like, there's no way there's that much back rent in Horry County. Well, 19 months later, I can tell you that we had to request more and more. We spent over $30 million in paying people's back rent and months forward to keep them from becoming homeless. And that was over almost 5,000 households. So the numbers of homelessness that are staggering anyway, that could have been 5,000 more households added to it with the amount of people that live in each household if that assistance wasn't provided. Now, ERAP's coming to an end. There's a proposal to continue it in some kind of way. But, those are staggering numbers. It staggered me when I realized we went through the first 8 points. I'm like, at one point, there was one particular week, we wrote over $900,000 worth of checks to pay landlords to keep people housed in 1 week in Horry County. State spent, I think the total allotment was $470 million. But, that was created through the CARES Act. Now you got the American Rescue Plan. Some of that's still lingering. But people, the tougher part is about finding that house like I was talking about. My folks will do the housing search, negotiate with the landlord's work, provide the incentive if we need to double security deposit. We can guarantee that we can do repairs to the unit. There's one particular grant we have that's called Permanent Supportive Housing that's only for chronically homeless individuals and families with a disability. Well, we have 44 of those units scattered between Sumter County, Florence, Marion, Williamsburg, and Horry County, kind of centralized in our 13 county area. And last year, the damages that were caused in those houses, we don't own any of them. We spent over $130,000 just doing repairs to other people's properties to keep them happy where they would allow us to continue, because we're on the lease as the lessor, is the occupant, and then we have to sublease it out. So it's a heartbreaking problem. It's heartwarming when you can get someone in, and when they're coming through the program, working with case managers on a stability plan, not just getting you in it initially, is how at some point would you be able to take it over and do it on your own, helping them with jobs, with increasing income, getting connected to mainstream benefits. There's a whole lot that goes along with housing that I think the general public is really not that aware of or not well informed. The amount of people out there that need it, that are just biding time, because of rental rates. If you guys have, I'm sure you've looked in Horry County, the units we used to, 1 bedrooms we used to be able to get for $800 to $850, everything included, are now $1,200 and $1,400.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the issue is they've gone up, the incomes have stayed here.
Right.
And people are like, well, I can't find a job. And then everybody I know that we work with in the business community are closing early or not open certain days because they can't find anybody to work. So I can't quite figure that out. I'm not sure where the issue there is, but
I think that's a transportation issue, I believe.
Now, a lot of public transportation here, you got Coastal RTA, they run up and down 17 and out 501.
I think a lot of it is attributed to the wages. I mean,
it is.
Just think about, we're in a tourist area, and what is the average wage? I mean, if most people think the best wages around are at a certain fast food restaurant that sells great chicken sandwiches with a pickle on the bun. I'm not going to say the name because we're not getting any kind of endorsement for that. But when you're looking at people being excited about making $13 an hour,
right,
and you think about the fact that they have to pay $1,200 to $1,400 in rent, I think people are unfortunately having to decide whether or not it's even worth it to take a job that is somewhere between $8.50 and $12 an hour, or just not work at all, because by the time they put gas in the car, they go, they do what they have to do, as far as the workday is concerned, and then you're taxed. FICA gonna get his. When you take money home, it's like, why? Why am I even working? Especially if you have healthcare coming out and daycare and all that other stuff.
I was going to say, one of the issues you brought up about the kids. So you take a 2-parent family with kids. So both would need to work, to get that $18.75 an hour minimum wage. So if one is not there taking care of the kids, they have to go to daycare.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of daycare is go far outweigh what they would make in the job on a normal basis. So it doesn't make economic sense, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real conundrum. It really is.
It really is.
So programs like we run where there's assistance involved, and then what we've decided, ECHO's mission, we're going to have a leadership thing with all of my folks, and we're a little bit different as a nonprofit. We have, I think, 56 people now. 60% of the people that work at ECHO, including everybody on leadership, except for our chief financial officer, are formerly homeless, recovered addicts, alcoholics. A lot came through the programs that we now manage. So when you can talk to somebody and not at them, I can't be talked at, because if you talk at me, I'm in the Charlie Brown episode, and all I'm hearing is womp, womp,
womp, womp, womp. Exactly. Exactly.
You haven't been where I've been. I don't want to hear what you got to say.
Right. And then also, I think that it's admirable that all of you have walked the walk, because then that means you are definitely in tune in a trauma-informed way, because all of this also lends to that aspect of what's going on with the housing crisis. I mean, when you have to worry about your dwelling or shelter, or how you're going to take care of your family, with shelter being the main, component of that, that's a mental and emotional thing. It turns into a physical thing. It becomes a spiritual thing. So, there's a lot of trauma-informed dynamics that are wrapped up in that. So,
are you looking for a job?
Who, me?
Yeah. You just said one of the buzzwords, because all of our programs are operated and administered. And like I said, I don't like the word program participants, clients, blah, blah, blah. These are people. Mm-hmm. So we have to do everything we do from a client choice perspective and trauma-informed care, because being homeless or imminently at risk facing that. You know, if I can't figure out how to pay the rent, the landlord's already sent me a letter that I got 5 days to be out, then that's trauma.
That's trauma.
Not counting untreated mental illness or substance use disorder, HIV/AIDS, whatever the case may be. And I'll tell you, so one thing I want to put out there for renters, if you get, and I know there's a lot of property owners be mad at me, if you get a letter from your landlord that tells you got a certain amount of days to be out, you ain't got to go nowhere. If that doesn't come from an official magistrate's court, the magistrate is the only person in this county that can evict somebody. But what that letter does is it scares people and they go and do that. And then our phone starts ringing. It's like, no. Let us try to work with the landlord and negotiate and try to help you out here. So, I mean, you know, our number there, but you got all kind of emergency food and shelter programs that there's money out for food. You know, you got churches assisting people out in Conway, CAP that gives out food. You got a lot of those type things, help with IDs, birth certificates, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the only solution to someone without a home is that they have a home.
That's right. Yep, that's so true, Joey. There's a couple of questions that I want to pull onto the screen. And as you know, this is running live and we have a live audience. So we'd like to thank those of you who are watching. If you have any questions for our guests, please drop it in the comments or the chat. If you're on YouTube, it's chat. If you're on Facebook, it's comments. And I know you've addressed some of the things that are inside of these questions, but you know, I think what underpins what you were talking about is all about awareness and advocacy. And so we do have a couple of questions that are kind of rooted in that. Okay, so one is, how has the county began to address the issue of homelessness? And I know that you're covering 13 counties. Let's kind of focus on Horry County because, this particular person, for example, lives in Horry County. And how have the advocates addressed the issue of homelessness? Homeless individuals being given summons and jailed based on their homelessness. So you just talked about the official summons coming from a magistrate. You know, what happens when it gets to that point? Can someone be jailed? You know, tell us a little bit about that.
So the first part of the question, I'm going to
bring it back up again
because I'm going to get real passionate about that second part. Horry County is a county government. Horry County is an entitlement county. That means they receive funding from HUD directly for certain programs. A lot of smaller counties have to get it from the state. Horry County does not. Horry County is one of the best working partners and funding partners that we have. Horry County's action plan, you can go on their community development website, Horry County Community Development. You can read their action plan. They are very attuned to the issue of homelessness or preventing homelessness. And that's what I'll say as far as the county does. So they put funding out there available to address homelessness and to prevent people from becoming a lot of it. That second one, that's a real hot issue. And the solution to homelessness is not criminalizing it. You know, is it a right that you are sleeping in a public place and you're locked up? Not so much. There was a court decision that's been little notice, but it was in 2018 in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals out west that basically banned municipalities and all that from clearing out encampments and that type thing if there weren't adequate resources for them to go to. We don't have those adequate resources, which would be shelters. In Horry County, we really have 22 true emergency shelter beds, and that's only for individual males.
And that's shelter beds, not shelters.
That's shelter beds. There's 2 shelters in this county, one up on the north end way out in Longs on Highway 9 and one here in Myrtle Beach. But true emergency shelter beds, only 22 for the males.
Wow.
And that's another organization. I won't get into that. But so it's decriminalizing. So we have a homeless court here. That's great. It helps with misdemeanors and that type thing. But your question about what happens when the magistrate sends the letter to the tenant, that's a notice to vacate. You have 10 days to appeal that. So you call the magistrate's office and you request a court date. So then, you know, if it's here in Myrtle Beach or Horry County, it's probably going to be, you know, Judge Arrakis here on 21st Avenue. You're going to go with the property owner, property manager is going to be there. The tenant's going to be there. Hopefully, and they're great, the magistrate's court is trying to get this worked out. You know, when this ERAP money's around, we'll normally have somebody from ECHO there. They're like, maybe we can divert it. You know, it's kind of like crisis intervention or diversion will you allow us to help your tenant catch up this rent and maybe even pay some forward, and hopefully we can get this situation resolved without somebody having to be put out on the street. But that's the process for the tenant to take once they get it served on by the magistrate, and that creates a whole nother panic. And like you said, it'll tell you got 10 days to appeal it. So appeal it by requesting a court date, and that's normally going to take 2, 3, 4 weeks. But a normal eviction process in general is between the day you get that is 30 to 45 days. It is not you property owner says or landlord says get out in 5 days. No. Try to work it out with them, but request a court date because it's got to come from an official court.
An official court.
South Carolina. So one thing people might want to look up is the South Carolina Landlord Tenant Act. You can get it right online. The tenant's rights are in there. The landlord's rights are in there. You know, like if someone abandons the property, can you go in and remove the stuff? Not quite that easy. All of those regulations are in there. So the case that I'll reference, and I'll just throw it out there for the arresting of homelessness, is Martin versus Boise in 2018. That was versus the city of Boise, Idaho. Going to do some research and look at that. It's becoming a kind of a hot topic. It was mostly centered out on the West Coast, but it's made its way here and the Florida and Virginia and all kind of places. So it's just when you define something as public, it's like, okay, who are you to say somebody can't sleep there?
Hey.
And I'm not, I know every coin's got two sides and we work well with law enforcement and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, look, what are we really trying to do here?
You know, it's interesting you said that, Joey, because if I'm not mistaken, someone told me in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you know, you see these tent cities or encampments, like you said, and that they cannot be moved. Right. Because they are in public places, and you're right. And I know that
lawsuit.
Okay. So
one of the states, Phoenix, city of Phoenix, took it and requested the Supreme Court to hear it. They refused to hear it. They upheld the circuit court judge's decision.
Yeah, it's a deep topic. It really is. And so there's another question. And again, thank you for posting questions for our guests. Is there a means or procedure for these technically homeless people living with others to report their crisis status and needs to be counted as homeless and be able to be eligible for housing and other supportive resources? So how can they report their status so that they can be eligible for support?
So I'm gonna give away a secret here, and my case managers, if they're watching or see the recording, will probably like want to come. So when I was talking about that,
you're gonna give away a secret only on this program.
Yeah. So here's the situation: when you got two families living together, or a mom and a dad, or a grandma or grandpa, whatever, is allowing adult children to continue to stay there because they can't afford it or lost their home, whatever the case may be, or a friend or whatever. The key words with HUD in our grant programs is staying with or living with. They are not the same thing. If they say they're living with, that means they're a part of that family's household. If they're staying there because they can't find their own place, I see you making notes and picking up on what I say.
Yep.
Well, when we go for eligibility documentation, that family that is the home that has the lease or whatever would need to say, because of a lack of resources and shelter beds, we are providing temporary shelter to this individual or this family, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, all right. Hey,
get the inside scoop there.
That's the inside scoop right here, right here, brother.
I'm really good at, and my background, you know, and I said my story is an open book. Yes, I'm a convicted felon. Yes, I was homeless. Yes, I'm a recovered drug addict. But that's allowed me from that change in my life and people doing something for me. So all programs have regulations and compliance. ECHO's main thing is to dot I's, cross T's to make sure we stay in regulatory compliance so we'll be able to provide these services. But a lot of things when you look at program eligibility regulations and expenditures, is there a gray area or is there a line you walk on the fence? And I don't mean this arrogantly. I've gotten really good at learning how to walk on that fence. If you use their language and regulations back with them, HUD wants nothing more than their funding that they put out to be able to help people. They really do.
Yeah.
And all the VA and all these agencies in the community. So I'll get back off of this tangent back there. The community is much more aware of the veteran situation and much more willing to help a homeless veteran or one that's becoming, you know, especially if you're armed and discharged combat veteran.
Right.
Not so much with us drug addicts, not so much with domestic violence, not so much with untreated mental illness. We all carry a stigma with us. And part of the advocacy and programs like you're doing here is to help educate people on those stigmas and remove them. Because you know what? Like I keep saying, I got a second chance. May have been, and we might have to serve somebody 2 times, 3 times, 4
Right.
times, 5 times. I mean, until they realize all other options are gone, and you know, this you're eligible for this. Why not take advantage of it? And I don't mean take advantage of it, but let those resources work for you.
Benefit them.
Have some of the money you paid out, whether you were employed or not, or when you were, have it come back to help you. That's what it's there for. That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. And I just want to say that, you know, as Janet Lawrence Patton said, this is some powerful information. And Joy, I think you probably realize by now that even though your life was probably full of a lot of whys, you know, why is this happening? Why? It was really a setup for you to walk into your purpose. And if you don't have people who are passionate like yourself, working as advocates in these organizations and showing the kind of empathy that's needed for people who need assistance, then, you know, you've got the wrong people, obviously, if you don't have people like that. But also, I think your passion also means that you're not going to stop digging for the secrets and the tips and the things to help other people. So
I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm not going to start.
Right. You're going to be a voice.
You know, don't deny the truth here, whether you like it or not. It makes you look bad. It's just reality. You can't change. The truth doesn't need any proof to prove it's true. And a lie don't care who tells it. It just wants to get told.
Okay.
Barriers, you know, that kind of thing. For a long time, I was the one that wanted to tell them. So not that way anymore. But, you know, one of the programs that I went through that helped change my life, and not to say it's anonymous and all that kind of stuff, but it says, you know, it says at the moment we're trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us.
Amen.
That's what this organization is about. And I'm going to tell you what you talked about, the whys with me. I was angry at God. I mean, I grew up in the First Baptist Church. Faith is even stronger now, but what I realized is I can't live off of somebody else's relationship. I got to have my own personal relationship.
Okay. You preaching now, Brother Tim.
Yeah, I'm not bashful about my faith. You know,
and you shouldn't be.
And people are like, well, I tried church and it didn't work. I'm like, no. You just described all these programs you tried and it didn't work. Here's who didn't work. You didn't work because you weren't willing. I mean, what's it going to take for you to get willing? How much is enough?
Okay. All right.
Well, you know,
this is awesome.
Yeah. Brother Tim, you invited Joey on with you, and we were talking earlier when you were trying to solidify even coming on the show. Looks like you got to catch them, man. I guess you knew exactly what kind of who to bring on the show and what kind of information that the community needs. Okay, not that what the community wants, but I think what the community needs to hear. And thankfully, our program, Joey and Tim, it's you can see it. It's been recorded. You can go to our website.
Okay.
And you can see this again.
I was going to ask if it was recorded.
Yeah, it's actually on YouTube, so you can pull it.
Yeah. It's our website.
The question for you guys is, where can I send some phone numbers, emails, like our website that's going to have the Get Help section. You can do applications online. You know, ECHO doesn't have this waiting list, supposedly, which is common knowledge. The COC does. The COC is called TCHC. It's Total Care for the Homeless Coalition. And there, like I said, there are programs you don't have to be in that position of homeless now. You could be in, facing that coming up through eviction or the double up, as the question was asked earlier. And it was a great way, the way that question was worded. Where these resources are available, there's a resource guide on the website, because you have people like Welcome All EOCs, the State Community Action Agency. They also have rental assistance. You can't serve, say somebody's in a lease and they're going to be short on their rent that month. Our programs can't touch that. Theirs can.
Right.
Helping hands and other ones. But when it gets to the point, like through the Emergency Solutions Grant, that's the last stop on the block. HUD looks at it. But for this assistance, this family is going to be on the street. Now, I'll give you, for instance, one I was here, but I had a couple, the girl that runs the domestic violence program for the new house we have in Florence. A 28-year-old lady who's 7 months pregnant, has 6 kids from 2 to 8 years old, and is living in a tent in the woods in Florence. We didn't have but 1 bedroom available to keep at least 3 of them at our DV house. So got with another agency over there, House of Hope, that provides and runs the shelters and all over there. They don't have room in their family shelter, but us working together, we're going to get them in a motel for 6 weeks, and then that'll clear up a 2nd bedroom in our crisis house. And then hopefully within the next 3 months, she and her family will have her own house. There's a lot of that out there.
Right.
I think the general public may be totally unaware of how severe the literal homeless problem is, much less people that are doubled up or facing eviction or whatever, because like Mr. McQueen said, or you said, the wages and everything else that's going on. Going back to that minimum living wage for Horry County at $18.75 to be able to afford, because you can't say somebody, they make enough to pay the rent. Well, does that take 80% of their income?
Correct.
Jeez.
Correct.
How do they make car insurance? How do they make a car payment? How do they do this? How do they do that?
All of that. That's
I'd
right.
like to provide phone numbers and access where people can apply for services. It's great we're talking about them. I had a little slide with a whole list of them that's going on there.
If you check the private chat, I've included my email address, and you can send it to me, and we can post it. I'm sure Brother Edward doesn't mind. We can post it on our website, and also if anybody asks for the information, we'll be more than happy to distribute it.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey,
I would love to see how we can host what we did in Florence here in Horry County and bring Joey there with all his expertise. And we need this here in Horry County, and definitely
Big way.
Yeah, but Brother Tim, I was going to ask you about that. So this housing and rental assistance workshop, of course, it was hosted in Florence, and as far as the turnout, because awareness can sometimes be a barrier. People don't, if they're not in tune to social media, or they're, not connected to an agency that's distributing this information to them on a regular via email or whatever, then they will miss out on wonderful workshops like this. So how was the turnout, and what do you think are some of the things that were takeaways from this workshop based on what you learned from the people who attended?
Well, the turnout wasn't what we expected. We had a cap on because we was in the facility. We had about 50 folks registered, but only about maybe 30 showed up. Takeaway was that we found folks like Joey's, other agencies that had so much information that is needed to go out into these counties. So that's my job now, is to push these type of forums throughout other counties. And I would love to bring it here to Horry County and bring those different agencies here to talk about these different opportunities, and plus have Joey on the panel to share what he shared with us today. I give you an example. Families right now that dealing with fair housing, housing, and the property manager, just as Joey said, gave them 30 days to be evicted, but it can't give me a 30-day eviction or telling me to leave the property unless it's come by majesty. A lot of folks don't know that.
No.
And those are the type of information we want to see come to Horry County and bring people together to address that, and maybe host it at a church. We hosted it at SMIT building, but we could host it at another space, a community center, and get people from our community to be involved. We would love for you guys to be a part of that.
So
Absolutely.
if I could chime in a little bit on that meeting, and the attendance was, great, but we wish it had been more. And like I said earlier, it was focused a lot on home ownership, but a couple of the questions that came out of there, one friend of Tim's there, they were talking about developing affordable low-income housing. State Housing was one of the agencies there, and I know, I won't say his name, he probably got mad at me, I've known him for years, but so they have a program, they get about $30 million a year, and it's called a Small Rental Development Program. This is National Housing Trust Fund money, Housing Trust, where they set aside about $6 or $7 million a year that small nonprofits can build new construction or acquire and rehab up to 6 to 8 units for affordable housing. Big developers in the bigger pot of money can build up to 36 units. So this is where you can build and increase our inventory of affordable housing, but they only talked about the first-time home buyers program and that type thing. Well, let's talk about when somebody's not in a position, yet ultimately, yes, to own your own home. First thing is, let's get you out of whatever situation is into a home, period.
Correct.
There's all kind of programs out there with funding to be able to acquire and rehab, or to newly construct affordable housing also.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I tell you, April, every time we have some this important information like that that's flowing, and it gets, I don't want to use the word juicy because we're talking about a very serious situation here. And you have some people that are on now who can help, really help by way of, some narratives, I believe, to particular agencies that you all know that would start some action going on. I know I don't want to belabor the issue, and I know we're out of time actually almost because we have another guest. But I wanted to ask you about WEOC. They seem to be doing some of the same things that you're doing on ECHO, and maybe doing a little more. But you did say it was on a broader scale. I believe that's what you said, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, they're a state community action agency, but going out and finding a house, working with a landlord, that's not in their purview. That's not, they'll provide
All right.
It's an utility, but completely different worlds. We work close with them. If somebody's calling, they're just short on rent, that's exactly who we refer them to.
All right, we're gonna as new developments come in and what you're proposing, Rev. McCray, we hope maybe by having you on the program, on the broadcast again just before it happens or during the time that in the planning stages, we can talk about it, and that helps in the planning of wanting to do this kind of thing. I think it's going to be an important event based on your description, and I like for people to take a special note of that you guys just went all the way to Florence and just to get this information and bring it back and see how you can utilize to better serve the citizens of Horry County. Since Horry County seems to be very, big in terms of what they like. I mean, what's this program and the homelessness is impacting. I'd hate to see tents all over out there on the beach, and they're not tents of convenience. They're tents of homelessness, like they got in the LA County and Philadelphia and places like that. If it gets that bad, you just might see that. So I think you guys are doing a tremendous job of trying to head those things off. So April, what about this precious time we got here?
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank our guests for being here this evening. It's a intriguing topic. It's kind of a sad topic, but it's good that we have the right people, the right soldiers in the Army actually fighting for people who do not have or feel like they don't have a voice. Sometimes, and I just said this recently in a speech that I made, Shakespeare says that, no man is an island, but I think that people can be made to feel like they're on an island, especially when they don't, they feel hopeless, like they don't have the resources, no one's listening, there's no outreach to them, they don't know how to reach out to others. And so it's important to have nonprofit agencies like the one that Joey is CEO of, and agencies like the one that Timothy is working with, and other agencies such as Waccamaw EOC, and even, smaller nonprofit agencies that are very specific and specialized in what they do, Shepherd's Table with the food and CAPS and, different places like that, because, that's what we're charged with doing. We're supposed to be servant leaders, and we're supposed to help one another. And so kudos to you both for doing the work. Joy, keep your face to the sun. And keep doing what you're doing, because this is definitely your purpose, and we'd love to have you all back to talk about programs that you're trying to pull together, not only in the surrounding counties, but specifically Horry County, because like you said, that number 88% is staggering. And
it really is. Yeah.
So we need some folks to hear that and to really understand that, but more importantly, the people who are in need to understand that there's help. We just got to make sure that they know where to find it. So I'm going to bring on, and we just have a few minutes to allow this, but I'm going to bring on the guest who is going to be talking about an event that she is producing. She has a question about veterans with barriers and to finding and qualifying for rentals. So, Brother Edward, we're going to allow Tanya Harriet to ask that question quickly, and then we'll move into the segment where she's going to talk about her upcoming event.
Right.
Okay.
That's a very important event. Yeah.
All right. So, Tanya, if you will. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
It's been breaking up the whole time. It keeps going in and out.
Well, we can hear you. Well,
Yeah, we can hear you.
We
Good.
can
How's
hear you
everybody?
quite well. Very well. Yeah.
Fine. You have a question for the show guest about veterans,
Okay.
veteran population? Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I was listening to Mr. Joey, and I hate the fact that it was going and really hear, what he was saying. My organization is a veterans organization, and we're get off the ground. And a lot of what Mr. Joey was talking about is what I see with the veterans that I, and also very personable myself. And he's talking about with helping veterans that are homeless or almost struggling because they're about to be homeless and they don't have the credit or they make too much money. So they have, real quick, I had a client that,
I think it may be on your end, Tanya.
client
Are you
that was about to,
are you streaming from a phone or a laptop? Because you're kind of choppy.
laptop.
Okay, all right. If you want, you can try to stream from your phone. It might be
come
faster.
up on my phone and it won't come up on the iPad.
Do you have all of your windows closed on your laptop? Just close everything down except for this.
Come up on my phone.
Okay.
Here, I'll go out and come back in.
Okay. And then, brother, we'll go to a quick commercial break,
Yeah.
and might be best if she maybe just can be in touch with Joey with her question a little bit later.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the commercial break, we do have her flyer that she is trying, don't we? Or did?
Yeah, I'll show it whenever she's on for her segment. Okay. All right. So, Joey, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate you. And if ever there's anything we can do for you, just let us know.
Yeah,
Reverend Tim.
an honor.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
So could you have her get in touch with me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'll shoot you over. I mean, I don't know if y'all have my contact, but I'll shoot over because I was just writing your email down because make sure I can save it on the chat.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just email my cell number and all that, and you can have her call me.
Okay. That works.
Be glad to talk to her. And one thing, we do have an old nursing home we bought here that we can keep 40 vets in that we do on contract with the VA. It's right here in Myrtle Beach. So
Wow.
individual males, but it's there's a lot of resources for veterans. So I'd love to talk to her.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, brother. You're welcome. And Brother Tim, thank you for being on the show tonight. You brought on a special one. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, Brother Edward, we'll take a quick commercial break, and maybe Tanya can get her. Let's see where we'll go. I'm gonna pull up your cousin Jerome.
Jerome.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Just a few seconds. Give us a minute. We'll be right back.
You know, the people are really gonna start thinking that it's really my cousin.
Oh, you're not related? His last name is McQueen. You're really not related. Oh, okay.
Well, you know, we're all related in some regard,
exactly.
You know.
We're all related. Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah, let's bring him up. Yeah, see what we got here.
Okay.
This is Jerome McQueen of Academics. the national movement to encourage our young people to choose STEM as career aspiration.
I had a really great biology teacher. She was like nationally recognized. She got to meet President Obama.
So this year I'm working with 3D printing, actually being able to use my skills from A&T to design things on the computer and actually see them become a physical part.
Well, Brother Edward, I thought I'd pop up a video for your summer jobs program.
I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad you did that, and you picked the right video. Okay, right video that you know, it was telling. It was telling.
Did you? So you were supposed to kick off the program yesterday. Did you kick it off?
It did. Went well. There are a couple or new, maybe 3 more new places that's been added this year, and we're excited about that. Really excited. One is, and I don't want to get too personal about it, but one is a dental office, and we've been able to place a young lady in there to train. And
that's awesome.
That
is awesome.
It's really and a couple of more places. You know, like I said, I don't want to get too personal. Some things I might not supposed to say right now.
Right.
But it's you know, always going to have 1 or 2 glitches out of 40 or something like that. So.
Well, I mean, you know, it's when you're dealing with first of all, you're trying to place young people in summer jobs that requires not only organizing the sites where they will be, but there's transportation situations and all kinds of things that, you know, go along with trying to execute a program like this. So, you know, that's one thing that people need to understand. It takes a lot of work in order to pull something like this together and keep it going for what, 6 weeks? Is it 6 weeks?
5 weeks. 5 weeks.
5 weeks. Okay. All right.
Prayers have been helpful in helping us to implement this thing, and it's coming off, you know, quite well. I'm satisfied. I just want to see young people, you know, they're wanting to work. When you see that, that's really should be satisfying to anybody. Okay, when you see 14, 15, 16-year-olds who just want to work during the summertime because there's probably nothing else to do. But you know, they're working, getting a paycheck at the end of the week. Weekly paycheck. Can't beat that.
Well, I'm going to run a few more videos, and that'll give Miss Harriet a couple of minutes to, you know, get ready for her portion of the broadcast, just to talk a little bit about the Juneteenth event. Right. So, yeah, I do have a couple more, and I think people will enjoy it. So I'm going to go right into it and play about 2 or 3 more, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
If you want to support Black-owned and operated businesses in the Grand Strand area and beyond, check out thenetworkconnects.com for a complete list of establishments in our local area. Our network connects Black businesses to community for a wide range of services, products, organizations, and resources that are viable in the African American community. You'll find a wide range of products and services that'll fit your needs, along with information about events and happenings around the local communities. Check out thenetworkconnects.com, connecting Black businesses to community. Thenetworkconnects.com.
We are back. Oh,
We are back. Yeah, we are. We are back. Yes, we are. All right.
So sorry.
she's having this difficulty because it's a mighty task on what she's doing on the Juneteenth. That's what I think it is. Go ahead, you can tell us about it.
I like that. I like that.
Go ahead, you can tell us about
it is the 3rd annual Juneteenth Festival. And I'm ready. It's a 3-day event this year, and it's going to be downtown like it was last year at Town Green, 200 Laurel Street on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the time is 11:30 until 6, and we have so many events lined up for the day. But we're going to kick it off Friday with the African Attire Gala. And it started out being just, like a meet and greet, people that want to come in, get questions answered about being a vendor, or just coming to the festival, period, and possibly buy a t-shirt. And it was like, well, let's make it a gala. Let's make it, something grand and leading into the festival. So we decided to have a gala, and if you want to dress up in African attire, you can. We're going to have raffles from items from local businesses. We're going to have a spoken word by Miss Arnetta Freeman. She is the creator of Black-owned Opoly, which is a Monopoly game that she has created, and she's going to talk about that at the gala. And she's also going to be doing spoken word on Sunday. So for this festival, it's sponsored by a great group of folks. I call them my super friends. And one of the biggest ones is the city of Conway. Then we have Dominion Energy. And then we have Kidogo Farms, which is out of Georgetown, and they're sponsoring the rice cook-off. So with the rice cook-off, it's only $25, and you get it. If you can do it, you get out there. We provide the rice for you, which is sponsored. And it's, like I said, it's $25. And if the winner of that receives prizes, and they're also sponsored in the annual rice cook-off, which is in Beaufort. So Kidogo Farms and Go Get Your You Foundation will sponsor the winner to go on and, defend their title with here. And that's going to be Saturday, starting at 12 o'clock. And then we're going to announce the winner at, I think, 4. Aside from that, we have a kids zone with our featured sponsor, Select Start Gaming, and they have a gaming truck with all kinds of games in it. We have bouncy houses for the kids, and then we have games for the smaller kids. So retail vendors, food vendors, soul food vendors, seafood mac and cheese, anything that you can think of, we pretty much got it. And sweets for the person with the sweet tooth. We got some of everything. Kidogo Farms is also going to be selling some fresh produce, representing a couple of farms down in the Pee Dee area, Bucksport area. And it's Saturday is going to be packed with a lot of stuff going on. The gala and Saturday's events will be emceed by none other than DJ Turk Nice, Tony Pryor. DJ Turk was one of the first people when we started the first festival in 2021. And I wanted to make sure that I incorporated everybody that was involved and got the first festival off the ground some way this year. It hasn't been easy, but you keep going and you do what you can do, what you can't do. You make
Absolutely,
notes
yeah.
for the next time. But we're also having the Joyner Institute for Gullah and African Diaspora Studies, and they are going to be doing. I can't wait to see this. They're going to be doing a hip hop culture class, and what they're that are going to be there that are going to show you how hip hop goes along with Gullah and goes along with uh, African moves and how the attire, correlates together. Um, he said it's like a 2-hour course or 2-hour thing that they're going to be doing, and I can't wait for that. That's going to be Saturday at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So it's an action-packed weekend. I can't wait, and then relax on Juneteenth Day.
All right. All right. Well, there you have it. I'm sure you probably didn't name all of the stuff because it's
No, of course
seems to me
not.
like you want
Just
to bring out some more, but there's lots more to go. But you'll have that opportunity. You'll have that opportunity. So look, congratulations on this endeavor. I know you worked hard. I can tell, but like I said earlier, I can tell you worked hard because you had difficulty getting on this. But I'm going back and forth on the broadcast. That was a task. So
yeah,
but anyway,
yeah.
we wish certainly wish
Yes,
you well,
indeed.
and we're and you are running us over, taking us over time, but it's worth
Appreciate
it.
it.
Okay, it's really worth it. We're going to like 8:30. So look, again, um, we just hope that this is really successful. I'm sure it is because you're behind it. So and April, what do you think?
Well, we do have one
I agree.
question from the audience, and so Tanya, tell us a little bit about the history of Juneteenth. Why is this holiday important? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. It was going in and out, but I think you said tell you about Juneteenth, what it
The
means
history
to
of
me, or
the history.
Juneteenth.
It's the history of. Tell us about the history of Juneteenth and why it's important. Why are we celebrating Juneteenth and why is it important in our community?
It's important because I feel it's a very important part of history. That was given in 1865 on June 19th. It was actually before then, but that's when it's celebrated. And it's important because people need to understand the truth. Number one, people need to understand our place in history and why we are where we are, being in the United States. Juneteenth to me is important to me because it lets me know someone fought for us, for the coming individuals. They fought for us, they fought for our freedom. So in return, I try not to let the circumstances that I have be a barrier. In other words, I keep going regardless of what is in front of me or what's trying to hold me back. And to me, that's an important part of keeping stuff alive about Juneteenth. Juneteenth means that there is hope. There's always going to be hope, and to never give up.
Okay. So, yeah, Brother Edward, just recap real quick. It's a 3-day.
Do it for the next person following behind you.
Okay. All right. So, Brother Edward, you want to recap real quick the dates of the festival, since it's still kind of blotchy. I think her feet is still kind of bouncing in and out.
Oh, okay. The date, June 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think the 16th is that Friday, I believe. And she also mentioned that it's going to be on Sundays. It's going to be the spoken word. But where will the spoken word take place? At what church or whatever? You said Sunday was the spoken word.
It's everything is going to be downtown on Town Green at 200 Laurel Street both days.
Okay.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. The only thing that's going to be different is the gala. The gala is going to be at 5th and Main, or Conway Downtown Alive, 428 North Main Street. And that's Friday from 6:30 to 9:30.
Okay, that's the old post office for those of you who don't know. But at the corner of 6th and Main? Yeah, 6th and right at the corner. Okay. All right. There you have it. Can't wait for that. Juneteenth. And are you going to be doing any cooking yourself, by the way, Ms. Tanya?
For Friday at the gala, we're gonna cook dinner for the gala. Saturday and Sunday, I'm not gonna cook this year.
Uh-oh. You shouldn't have said that a lot. You'll turn some people away. You're not.
Well, we have some great vendors. We have some great food vendors gonna be out there Saturday and Sunday. Sunday is gonna be a laid back day. It's gonna be music, and like I said, the spoken word. Not as many activities on Sunday. On Saturday is gonna be more than Sunday. I'm sorry, but we're gonna have the spoken word, and it's gonna be music playing, and you're gonna be able to get Sunday dinner from a couple of the vendors that we have out there.
All right. Hey, April, it's been a day. It's been a day, and it's been capped off by some very good information on Juneteenth, and information before that is just as equally important regarding housing, which it is a crisis. They use the right word when they said housing crisis. But it is one. Okay, but anyway,
it really is.
Yeah. So we want to say a salute to our audience, and we're going to see you next week, same time, 7 p.m. I don't know if it's going to be like this or not, but
I'm sure we'll be able to come up with some more great guests with more great information. And Brother Edward, I'm sure you're going to attend some of the Juneteenth activities that are going on. I know Myrtle Beach is doing something, a parade and all that good stuff. Take some pictures, get some videos, so we'll have some things to show next week.
That's right. That's why I'm waiting on her cooking. So Tanya's cooking, so we can have that on the show.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right. So until next week, God bless. And again, we welcome all the comments, and we're thankful to the comments that were sent in. And it just made things go a whole lot more vivid and lively. And we wish you all well. Godspeed. See you next week, 7 p.m. to 8 until 8.
You try hard, Brother Edward. You really do. But we're gonna try that. We're gonna try 8 o'clock.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Thank you, LaTanya.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.